Afternoon, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. Everybody, Silbolt here, back with part 2 of Why I Dislike the Big Bang Theory. I didn't actually expect the first part to run to half an hour, so I figured I'd break it down into 2 parts. Mainly to save the ridiculous amount of time we'll upload to YouTube, and also for ease of purpose for you guys. So you're not sat there listening to a movie about why I dislike the Big Bang Theory. Right, so the last episode I discussed the characters and their very, very, very blatant, hideous flaws. So this one, we'll go into a little bit of the side characters that have been introduced over the years. And the 2 I'd like to mention is, the first is Leslie Winkle, who was written in as a strong, intelligent, confident woman, who's very much in control of her own sexuality, and is, unlike everybody else, is about the only one who is competently able to stand up to Sheldon and his bullying tactics. Sheldon, of course, being Sheldon, hates any kind of thing like that, so he detests Leslie Winkle itself. And Leslie was a character who was able to handle Leonard's clinginess, who was, able to have a one-night stand with no emotional attachment, and in many regards is a very strong, independent woman. And then she's completely written out of the show. She was a good character. And yet she's written out of the show. Maybe you could argue they ran out of material of things to do with her. But there we go. The other character I'd like to mention is Stuart. And this is another indicative of just how self-centered and self-absorbed that particular clique of friends is in regards to their treatment of Stuart. Stuart is the guy who owns the comic book store. The 2 comic book stores. Obviously, it burns down at one point, and then it gets reopened. And Stuart is an exceptionally depressed character. He very clearly is almost suicidal. And indeed makes several references to the fact that he wants to kill himself. And again, it's handled in a comedic fashion. He's the geek that can't get anywhere. Like the other boys, he is, he laments the fact that he is constantly single. Stuart's character of someone who works very hard, who, despite everything, comes in every day and keeps going. And, as anyone who has suffered from depression knows, getting out of bed in the morning can be a real struggle. And sometimes you can't do it. So they introduce this character whose development basically goes that he becomes more and more miserable and hating himself and is utterly alone. And yet the group treats him appallingly. They never listen to him. They never engage him. They never actively try to seek out and help him. They never pick up on his very, very, very obvious cries for help. And seem almost constantly surprised when he shows up in their lives outside of the comic book store. The only time Stuart actually is ever brought into the group is when Sheldon either wants to try and replace somebody, or when Raj is trying to replace Howard. They don't, their friendship with Stuart is based on convenience. They have him around when it suits them. And they never actually try to deal with Stuart. The only one who actually shows anything resembling compassion towards Stuart is Raj. And you could argue Penny at times as well. But again, the group never actively includes him in anything, despite the fact that it would appear to all intents and purposes that they do consider him to be a friend. So Stuart's character is one that is almost suicidal in how wretched he is with his life. And again, that thing is played for laughs. It's played off as a joke that a man wants to kill himself. What the fuck is wrong with this show? The guy makes jokes about the amount of medication, the guy makes comments about the amount of medication that goes into it, and the over-the-top canned laughter laughs at it. Do you see what I'm getting at? Stuart as a character is tragic. He's the male version of Amy. He is desperately lonely, desperately unhappy, and these fuckwads who apparently have been bullied all their lives, who have felt crap all their lives because they are stigmatised for being geeks and nerds, completely blaze over him. It's like he doesn't even matter. The only time they actively get involved where Stuart is concerned is when it affects them because the comic book store burns down. That's the only time they give a damn. You know, even when Raj sets up kind of like the Valentine's night at the comic book club, gives off this big rousing speech about singletons, about being single and how it's not that bad, the second a girl looks at him, he's gone off with her and calling them all losers. Stuart is an utterly wretched individual who needs help, who needs his friends around with him, and they don't care. They just leave him by the wayside until it affects them. That's not the actions of a friend. That's not the actions of the way about caring about somebody. So that was one of the things I wanted to mention. I've actually got a little bit of a list here. Because I've been thinking about this for the last while, and there were many instances. This was originally about 3 pages long, but I decided, if I start picking apart every little thing that's in the Big Bang Theory, I might as well just give up, because no one's going to sit there and listen to me talk for 3 hours about what's wrong with the Big Bang Theory. You can watch Lord of the Rings in that time, if you skip the entrance credits and end credits, I suppose. So I nailed it down to a few of the things that I thought were most prevalent. One of the episodes, looking back on it, that actually I was like, this is just wrong. Well, actually, all of these points that I'm going to make are because I thought, this is wrong. As I previously mentioned, Howard is a sexual predator. He's a pervert. He tries over the top, and it's always presented in a comedic fashion. He's such a loser. Someone needs to write an episode of Criminal Minds with Howard Wolowitz as the villain, and then see how far it goes. Howard presents himself as this really nice guy who's just misunderstood. Isn't that what Elliot Rodgers said? The episode I'm mentioning at this point is the episode with the robot wars. Howard makes one too many perverted comments to Penny, and Penny pulls him on it. Which she should have done a hell of a long time ago. And then has to apologise for it. Why? Howard makes innuendo and suggestion and comments and everything, mostly in regards to sex and Penny's physical appearance, on a near constant basis. And the one time that Penny actually reacts in a normal, healthy way and tells him to fuck off, and then Leonard, who is supposed to be the socially aware one, turns around and says, "You were too harsh on him." No, she wasn't! No, she wasn't! That is exactly what she should have done! Howard does not have the right, just because he's the quirky, horny character, to make constant, belittling, sexist comments towards her. And then it's played for laughs that Penny is the one that has to go to his house, to a man that she is physically uncomfortable being around, and say, "I'm sorry for what I said." No! That is completely fucking backwards! No! She is made to apologise because somebody and some man is making her uncomfortable in being around them. No! You can also argue that why Penny continually hangs around with this group as some kind of dependency issue, which I alluded to in the last video, but there we go. No! Penny's reaction, played for comedic laughs and suitably over the top, obviously, is a release of pent-up frustration because she's been biting her tongue for so long. Okay, yes, you can argue that she shouldn't have put up with it for as long as she does. Fair enough. But no! Penny's reaction was completely justified. And she's made to feel guilty and feel bad for actively standing up for herself against Howard's misogyny. That's wrong. That's backward. That's not how it works. Anyway, carrying on with the Howard part of it. And one of the key indicators that Howard is a sexual predator. The house with the supermodels. America's Top Model. Penny wants to watch it, but her cable's out, so she comes over and they all start watching it together, apart from Sheldon, obviously. And what does Howard do? He uses a satellite and his intelligence to track down this house and then become a voyeur watching them sunbathe on the roof with a Google satellite or some satellite with video enhancement technology, with video technology. What? And then, just to compound matters, he then goes to the house with Raj. What? How can you look at that and not see that that is predatory? That is the kind of shit a fucking stalker does. And it is just exploitation. I mean, think about it logically. This is Edward Cullen level of stalky shit. It's I would use a Christian Grey metaphor, but I'm going to save that one. And it's played as a joke. It's so funny that these two men are able to not only sexually objectify these women, but actively stalk them and find them and track them and then get into the house under false pretenses in an attempt to try and seduce one of them. What the hell? That's not comedy, it's an episode of Criminal Minds. Ugh. Speaking again, keeping up with the sexism programming of this show is their treatment of Penny. Penny is obviously the most socially adjusted out of all of them. She's the most open of them. But she's also a very kind and decent person. And yet she's often the butt of all the jokes. You know, they make constant reference to her promiscuity. Her body, her choice, who the fuck are you to judge? And they make constant reference to the fact that she doesn't understand, you know, geek culture and geek norms in regards to everything that's going on. She's the butt of the jokes. When the joke is that those four men should really take a good hard fucking look at themselves and look at the kind of person that they are before judging everybody else, before judging Penny. No. Anyway, just so it's not, I'm not just ranting about the sexual objectification, the predatorism, and the sexism and the misogyny that is rampant throughout the Big Bang Theory's programming, is their treatment of Harold Kim. Harold Kim is, 14, 15-year-old North Korean genius who comes to the university where all four of these men work. And instead of embracing new ideas and new thoughts and new things, the group, especially Sheldon, are actively threatened by him. So what do? They sabotage him. These are supposed to be our protagonists. They're supposed to be the heroes. They're supposed to be the people that we like to watch. But they sabotage a 15-year-old boy's career because they're jealous and insecure fuckweasels. And that's supposed to be funny. What is funny about that? What is funny about taking a 15-year-old boy and making him, well, at least suggestively making him an alcoholic? I've already brushed upon Amy Farrah Fowler's character and her desire for ultimate human intimacy. I mean, at one point in the CV show, they make a joke. Amy makes a joke about how one time she passed out at a frat party and woke up with more clothes on than she had when she went to sleep. How is that a joke? How is that funny? That this is a person who is so desperate for some kind of physical human interaction that she laments not being sexually assaulted. How is that right? How is that funny? How is that something that you should be able to go, yeah, I quite like that idea? Do you get what I'm driving at here? I'm not just picking random holes in this series. There's an overlapping theme here of this is a TV show that picks the worst traits that someone can go through, the most horrible things that people can go through, and trivializes them. If you think about an awful lot of the jokes in the Big Bang Theory, they are... Well, I'd hardly be the first person to accuse Chuck Lorre of misogynistic attitudes and chauvinistic attitudes and sexist attitudes towards women. But again, with Amy, her desire for human intimacy is played as a joke. Her treatment, and this is where I'm going to use my Christian Grey reference, her treatment at the hands of Sheldon is deplorable. He makes her sign a fucking contract detailing how much physical intimacy that they can have. What? That's just... I will point out that if you do actually the littlest bit of research, dictating physical intimacy like that is a sign of abuse. It's not even a minor sign, it's a major sign of abuse. The withdrawing of affection is a sign of abuse. Shaming is an abusive relationship to Christian Grey levels of abuse. And yet it's played for laughs. Sheldon's treatment of Amy is deplorable. It's awful. He breaks this woman down piece by piece by piece by piece until he has her exactly the way he wants her. How is that not abuse? How is that tolerable in broadcasting? How is that allowed to be put in there and it's played as a joke? That's not a joke. And I don't give a fuck if some of you think I'm coming off all internet social justice warrior here, because that shit's not funny. There are people, men and women, who go through that kind of crap every fucking day. And Chuck Lorre's writing plays it off as humorous, that it's just Sheldon being quirky. No, it's not. It's Sheldon being a monster. And everyone else in the group just tolerates it. As I said in the last video, shut up, Sideswipe. Their friends, her friends, Amy's friends, who should be saying, especially Penny, who is the socially understanding one, who does follow these kind of norms, she is the one that should be saying, you need to get the fuck out of there. He breaks her down, chips away at everything that she has until she is completely subservient to his whims. And why does she do it? Because she is so desperate, so desperate for the merest spark of human affection that she will put up with everything that Sheldon throws at her. And people think it's funny. And people think that Shamey is this adorable relationship. My God, no, it's not. It is the most broken, dysfunctional way. If he started punching her, you couldn't make it any worse. Well, you could, but you know what I mean. The sheer emotional hell that Sheldon puts Amy through should not be played for a joke. You could turn that into an ongoing arc in CSI New York, or, well, no, maybe not CSI New York, but Criminal Minds again. You could turn that into a constant arc. Anyone who has any understanding of the horrors that abuse victims go through should look at that and switch it off, because it's not right. Whilst I certainly have no objection to difficult issues being presented in TV shows, I think that's actually a very good idea, because the more you bring it into the light, the more understanding people have of it, the more it can be dealt with. How many abuse victims turn around and go, I don't know where to go. I have no one I can turn to. And this is played for laughs. I'm getting genuinely emotional about this. Huh. And this is played for laughs. And canned laughter at that. No. And the more I looked at that, the more I realised that that was one of the things that I found the most disturbing about The Big Bang Theory. Is Sheldon's treatment of Amy. And you can't even put that down to Sheldon's, autism or mental pathologies. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's breaking her down bit by bit to make her into what he wants her to be. And it is only when she leaves him, when she finally does the sensible thing and wakes up and gets the hell out of Dodge, that's when Sheldon changes. Leopards don't change their spots. He does that through fear of losing, because he's losing control. He doesn't have that control over anymore. And that's when he does what so many abusers do. Says, I'm sorry. And it's played for laughs. And again, like the Penny and the Howard incidents, Sheldon is the one we're supposed to feel sorry for at that point. No. I do not agree with that at all. What else have we got? One last point I'd like to mention is what happened to all of Penny's friends? Where did all they go? Written out the show once her and Leonard got together. That's kind of the last point. It doesn't really have the same impact. There are a lot of other things that you can pick up about The Big Bang Theory that are wrong on so many levels. But I think I've covered enough of the basics to not only justify why I dislike this show. You know, the advancements that we've made in regards to equal rights, to the rights of the abuse victims, to the symbolised destruction of things like rape culture, especially in things like TV shows. You know, look at the hoo-ha we had over the outcry of John Boyega being played as having a black stormtrooper and a white female lead, and now we're going to have an openly gay character in Star Wars. People are screaming about it. No, we can't have that. Why the fuck not? But again, that's a whole other video. If you stayed with me this far, thank you. This has actually run to almost an hour in total. It's got to be one of my longest videos ever on one particular subject. But yeah, that's why I dislike The Big Bang Theory. They are characters who, especially the males, who we are supposed to empathise with. The one last point I will make about The Big Bang Theory is it's not laughing with geek culture. I mean, the one episode where they're playing table tennis over the TARDIS door and Howard doesn't even make a joke. He just reams off a bunch of geek things. And that's supposed to be funny? He doesn't say anything. He just rattles off things. Big Bang Theory, at the start, it was quite well-meaning. But as time has gone on, it's not laughing with the geeks, it's laughing at them. It's not saying, you know, it's okay to be who you are. No, it's still reinforcing the stereotype that geeks are only worthy of derision, and the only way that you're ever going to get a girlfriend, if you're a geek, is by pestering her until she gives in and notice you're alive. Which is just more entitlement. But again, the subject of male entitlement in geek culture is really another video altogether. Thank you all for watching. I haven't been Decker Shadow, even though that did come out rather much like him. Yeah. Oh, I could keep this going, I really could, but I won't. I've already taken up an hour of your time in between these two videos. But, yeah. That was why I don't like The Big Bang Theory spread out over 2 parts. Thank you for watching. Regular programming will hopefully resume short enough with the next in my series of Who Are the Good Guys for 40k. But for now, this is Silverbolt, signing off saying au revoir, adios, auf Wiedersehen.